is one of the best vintage hi-fi stores that I have ever seen. It's wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling vintage hi-fi. You guys have to see this store to believe it. You can see a little preview behind me. It's even stacked up in the windows. So we're gonna tour it, check out some of the best vintage hi-fi that Ohio has to offer at Play It Again Sam. Be sure to let me know what kind of stuff you recognize, if I missed anything, or any stories you might have of any of the vintage hi-fi that you see in this video in the comments. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Let's check it out. When you first walk into Play It Again Sam's, you see so much vintage hi-fi, so much that I literally had to adjust my camera just to be able to fit some of it into the screen so you could see more at one time. I mean, I don't even know where to start in this store. There's just so much crazy stuff. And like I said, it's from the floor to the ceiling on every wall of this store. It's just absolutely insane. This is a wall full of vintage tuners from the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. And then when you start going down, there's some preamps, integrated amps mixed in, and then he has speakers all along the floor throughout the entire store. It's really wild. So I'm trying to figure out where to start to show you. Do we look at this wall of speakers, or are we going to start? I'm thinking we start on the other side below the records, because there are a few cool pieces down in here. So let's see what we got. Looks like a few more tuners are going to be down here, but there's, oh, this is a cool piece. So this Rotel, this is an RT 1024 from Rotel, and look, this is just a tuner. It's not a receiver, it's not an amplifier, and then underneath of it is that giant Heathkit power amp. Moving over, you see the Pioneer reverb there, and then these giant Krell amplifiers that were sitting just down below in the front of the store. Up here, we have a lot of cassette decks and CD players, and both cassettes and CDs are definitely making a comeback. I mean, a lot more people are buying them, and a lot more artists are making them. Up top, you have a lot of like EQs, like this Pioneer SP800. That's a really good like external crossover. I'm not too familiar with some of these, but you got a phase linear up top there. A lot of these little boxes are like noise dissipation, quadapter. There's a Dynaco quadapter, a Panasonic CD4. So if you want to get in the quad, this is everything you need. A CD4 from Pioneers, everything you would need to get into quad and put attachments onto your receiver is right there. You get a couple dual Sony decks. You know, Sony made some of the best cassette decks of all time. They last forever. They're easy to maintain. That Akai tuner is really nice. This Sony, look at this Sony vintage tuner. And on top of that, you get the Sherwood. I love the vintage designs of the Sherwood. Got a Dynaco, that's a PAS4, if I got that right. So a lot of really cool tuners and some preamps mixed in. This Mitsubishi P30 is really nice. And I mean, look at this RX606ES cassette deck from Sony at $159. A bunch of really nice DBX boxes, noise reduction systems, expanders, anything you could want to enhance your vintage stereo was all up on this wall. Now moving over to what would be the main listening room, you got some DCM time window speaker. I've never seen the round DCMs. This is my favorite vintage preamp, the Pioneer Spec 1. Just like when you move those controls, you can just feel the build quality. Got a nice Thorns TD140, so you gotta be careful with the dust cover. The main room was lined with speakers. Like you had giant speakers up top. You had more vintage style speakers down the bottom, and I mean all kinds. So I'm not gonna have time to like go through every one of these speakers like normal. That doesn't always happen, but there's a few pieces like this Lynn Sondic speaker. I've never seen a Lynn speaker before. I didn't know they made those. If you have more details, let me know. There's a Hafler speaker. Like these are well-known stereo brands that I'm just not too familiar with their speaker line. Down here you have some ADS speakers. They made very high quality speakers. What are these real big ones up here? These are Spectra 2s. I'm not too familiar with those either. Look at that giant turntable with that huge dust cover. But let's get a closer look. These are the ADS L800s. That's a great speaker. Now, maybe we want to take a little closer look at this rack before I skip over it underneath that giant turntable. So you have that Nakamichi power amp, the slanted one at the bottom. You have the nice Carver right there. Got a few other pieces kind of mixed. Then you have these Dynaco A25 speakers, very famous speakers. All the Dynacos hard to find. Now over here we have a EQ external crossover for Macintosh. You can probably hardly see it with the glare, but the window's a little bright. This Meridian CD transport, CD player, and DAC, so it was 3 pieces. Then you had this realistic strobe light, so this strobe light would actually beat and strobe with your music. That's just one of my favorites right there, for sure. Over here, we're going to look at the stuff in the window a little bit later, but look at the size of those transformers on that tube amp. And we'll get a look at that amp a little closer in a few minutes, because I do want to show you all of this vintage hi-fi that is sitting in the window. It's so much cool stuff. I don't even know what that is. Is it like a tweeter? So in the center of this listening room, there's a lot of cool pieces too. So you start off, you got this Empire turntable. These are really nice, especially if you get them working well. So it's a 398 from Empire, just a beautiful vintage piece. An esoteric CD player. You got a Hafler amp right there. You got a B&K preamp, an audio research at the bottom. Then you have this Carver M400, one of those Carver cube amps. You have this Lin turntable. The Lin turntables, as we talked about the speaker earlier, it's a great company. And these are some crazy looking components. Complete mirrors. You have the Carver amps down the bottom right there. And then you have just speakers and more. It surrounds the room. You have these Symposium speakers. I've never heard of them before. You know, if you see speakers in these videos, I mean, there's so many out there. Look at that Sherwood. That is a beautiful piece. Nice tube receiver. Wow. I love it. I love it. Yeah, but if you see speakers in these videos and you're like, wow, that's a really cool speaker, and I don't know what it is, let us know in the comments, because it helps other people when they're shopping. Frenzel? I've never heard of a Frenzel amp. And I know that this is a really cool environmental EQ from Macintosh. Let's see if I can pick it up here and kind of show you. But it actually has where you can change the sound profiles by adding different components to the inside of the EQ. So it's pretty cool. You have a Revelation Superfon, Conrad Johnson. That's a nice piece right there. You got a nice Conrad Johnson. They made premium components for years. I really enjoy seeing all these vintage tube preamps. And look at this Marantz, the 1070. That is a nice piece. I loved how Marantz did those pieces. Another Conrad Johnson down the bottom. You know, highly regarded as always. You have these giant B&W speakers. I may open one of these up. Let's see what this driver looks like, because these are just an interesting pair here. Let me see if we get this off. So I've seen the smaller models where they kind of sit up on a little pedestal too. So he had speakers all over. You got the DQ10s. This is like a fan favorite. Lots of other speakers throughout the back. I'm not going to get into all those again. But let's see what's on the rack here. You have a clear turntable. That's kind of exciting. You got a Marantz CD player. Then you have some Macintosh pieces. You have an FM tuner right there. Very nice. I kind of like the ones without the digital display, but you know, it's a good mix. They at least have the red lights. You got another preamplifier there from Macintosh and ADCOM down the bottom. But something that goes really well with ADCOM are going to be these DQ10 speakers. And I want to show you the back of them. If you've never seen inside the DQ10s, a lot of people redo all these parts, but the back of them is see-through. It's kind of great. Now, this is the very first audio research tube amp. I've actually never seen this piece before, but look, it's like a stereo tube amp, so it's got mono on each side together to make stereo, but a beautiful tube amp. This entire room is filled with stuff, but look what's on top. This shelf up here, you have an Ever Ready box. Then you have this like vintage can of like a Deoxit tongue sole beam power amplifier. Not sure what that is. You get this light from Replace Your Sylvania tubes. More Ever Ready boxes and 2 boxes that are just in mint condition of all different colors. Those are like artifacts to me, so I enjoy seeing them. You got a tube amp here. I am not familiar with this brand at all. The Macintosh 75s, there's a pair of those. They're gonna be 75 watt mono blocks, and look how good of condition they're in. That's a really exciting find. Here's the other mono block that matched the one on the other side again. Not too familiar. I do like this little Analysis Plus sign though. Let's go down onto the rest of the rack here. We have a Macintosh MVP 841 DVD, video CD, and CD player, the CR12 multi-zone control system. You have an MR7082 tuner. You get into the vintage tuners, the MR78. Oh, sorry, it's an MR71. You got the MX130 AV control center, and then one of those really nice MC2200. Then up here you have an MA5100 Macintosh integrated amp. This is one of the best tuners on the market, the Dynalab. Oh wow, that's a steal right there. You got a crown, got this nice Onkyo Integra. Whenever you see these Onkyo Integra pieces, definitely pick them up. Anything with the wood sides. You have a pair of phase linear amps. Then the Dynakit ST70 here, that's like a classic tube amp. Now another classic is this Revox turntable. It has that linear arm that you move across it. A couple more pieces here I'm not too familiar with. You have the Bryson, you have the Yamaha preamp, which is really nice. Any of those Yamaha preamps, very good stuff. Let's see what's on this other rack over here. You have another Thorns turntable. It's the TD126 MK2. And if you're in need to cook an egg, you can use this American Fidelity or British Fidelity amplifier. It'll cook it straight Class A. A couple other pieces here. Gelita, that's actually from Maryland where I'm at. Audio Refinement, I'm not familiar. This is a nice piece. Another thing to always look out for, these Champagne Denons are just incredible finds. This next section had some speakers that I've never ever seen before, and they almost had that like look of the Infinity speakers. So I'll show you the other one in a second, but first I want to look down and see we have some Conrad Johnson, some Black Ice, the Gelita products, Townsend Rock. Look at that turntable, that's incredible. You got a nice looking, looks like a Stereo 72 amp down there, but I'm sure it's just made from another brand. So these speakers are called beverage speakers, and I should have known because it looks like a giant can. But I think they're electrostatic speakers. You have the little dog on top, and then this wall over here with just endless EQs. And EQs are just a fun piece. If you don't have an EQ in your hi-fi system, I would highly suggest getting something. It can be basic, it can have lights, it can have meters, whatever it is. Oh, this Realistic's really nice too. What a deal. Like, what kind of, that is a great price. $189 for a service receiver, $2270. And on top of that, I love these audio controls. This is an Octave Plus, but it kind of looks like they're like Earthquake piece that they had. So really cool. You have this JVC integrated amp with giant meters on top. A Criterion right here, the Mark III. Those light up really good when you have the LEDs in them. So a Lafayette, I love Lafayettes. It's a 2020A, it's an entry-level Lafayette. A CR420 from Yamaha, great entry-level Yamaha receiver. You have this Sherwood S7200 right there, and another Marantz, a 2240 in a wood cabinet. I really wish they had all these on. That's the one thing I would ask, you know, when I go to these stores. I wish everything was turned on. It's a nice Fisher receiver. You have a cool Kenwood set. I've never seen this set before. Then you have a set of Quicksilver mono blocks. Really cool. Quicksilvers sound great. Maybe not as good as this Macintosh 75. That's a really good mono block. This B&O remote is cool. I love finding vintage remotes, and this one almost looks like a giant computer, which is just incredible. You have a lot of turntables all the way along the wall. You know, getting a vintage turntable is a great way to go, but just know you're going to have to probably have a lot more maintenance over time rather than getting something that's new. What do we got down here? It's a Nico. I love the Nico products. NR315. When these Nikos are lit up, they look incredible. Olsen, I've never seen an Olsen. That's a brand new one for me. Oh, wow. This is a Lafayette LR9090. That is one of their biggest receivers, if not their biggest receiver ever made. You can't go wrong with Lafayette at all. You got two big cabinet speakers here, and on top, another stereo amp, SG Labs. I'm not too familiar with that. Dynaco monoblocks, really nice. The MK3s are incredible monoblocks. Get another tube amp. There's actually a lot of tube amps in the store, which most stores don't have a lot of. You got a lot of Carver pieces. Oh yeah. Yes, that is an M500, excellent amplifier with a matching preamp. Then you even have some Adcom below it and above it. This nice Kenwood integrated amp. Any of the Kenwoods with that volume control in the middle are excellent choices. Another Marantz 2270 right there, just incredible. Denon turntable. I'm not the biggest fan of these vintage Denon turntables, but a lot of people really love them. Everywhere you walked in this store, there was just hi-fi, just stacked floor to ceiling. Get this SAEEQ, an amplifier, this Kenwood noise reduction system. Like, a lot of this stuff is very unique, things that I haven't really seen before or much of. This DBX amplifier is really cool. You have the THX NAD right there, a 200 disc CD player. All kind of CD players all up and down the wall. CD players are very, very popular, and so are rotor-reels. There's a few rotor-reels on the floor. You got this really cool Onkyo amp here. Whenever you see the Onkyo like R1 series, another great one to grab. Just like these Denons, these PMA amplifiers, extremely nice. You have this B&O right here. I love how the CD transport looks like the turntable. Got an eject button there, so it'll come out. Then up top you have this rare Magnacord 1024 reel-to-reel and a couple other vintage radios scattered around the store on the top shelf. It's very common to see that. You have this Scott there, then you have a Fisher receiver. The Fisher receivers are excellent tube receivers. A Caliphone 3100 reel-to-reel. I'm not familiar with that one at all. This Harman Kardon, any of the vintage Harman Kardon tube receivers are going to be really nice. You have a Sansui, that's a tube receiver as well. Then this Macintosh RCT3. I've never seen that one, but hey, another pair of Mark IIIs just sitting around. You got this Tandberg down there. To look at that, but look at all the hi-fi stacked around this store. It's just amazing how much of this is out there, and we're gonna try to find it. The Tandberg receivers are really nice, but they do require a lot of maintenance. But oh wow, these are the Blu-ray multi-disc players from Sony. These are extremely rare and highly sought after. There are still a lot of people out there that collect physical media, and this is one of the best ways to organize it. Use one of these Sony. Here's an ES one, and then you have the Kenwood granite turntable. It's a pretty nice turntable right there. If you're going to go with a vintage turntable, you can't go wrong with a Kenwood like that. It's so much to take in. Just in all directions in this store. It's just stacked. It's wild. I kind of enjoy that. It's like a hunt, trying to go through and see what kind of stuff is out there. In a lot of these stores, like that's the fun of this, is just going around in these stores trying to find stuff. Look at these 45 holders in all different vintage 70s colors. This is a cheap speaker, but it has this square driver. That's a pretty cool thing you don't see every day. And then down here, what is this 90? This looks very familiar. I think this is something special. Let's see what's inside. I bet it's going to surprise you all. Look at that. JBL L100. I knew it looked familiar. One of the best speakers, the Century 100s. Then next to it, you have a JBL L112 as well. So some hidden finds right there. Now there were tons of cool stuff behind the counter as well. The Vintage Pioneer sign, Vintage Audio Technica sign. Some cool speakers with like painted pictures on the grills up top as well. You see everything in the case. There was nice accessories, rare Nakamichi controls and DBX switches and Sony switches, an old cash register, some SME tone arms, and all kind of other little peripheral devices that you could hook to your vintage receiver. Stuff that's kind of hard to find. Vintage headphones, got a Soundburger right there in yellow. That's pretty cool. Not vintage, but Very cool to see the Audio-Technica Soundburger. Look at the vintage radio station clock up there. That is super cool. You have a fan steel plaque for outstanding sales and a old advertisement. That is wild. Look at this vintage TV right there. That is really a rare find. And then there's a Play It Again Sam 8-track from Casablanca. You know, you would have something like that since that's what the store is actually named after. Here's a look at what the owner will see when looking around the store. All that vintage hi-fi from the back to the front. The walls are covered, the floor is covered, there's stacks just absolutely everywhere. And he even has a full service tube tester. Now, it's not one that he lets people come in and use, but really cool to see one of these on display. This is a look at what they just got in that day. Like, this is the back. This is in the repair center. No store ever lets me look behind the scenes, but look how organized. They've been around for a long time, and they definitely know what they're doing. So I asked if there was a certain piece in all of this vintage hi-fi that he has been collecting over the years, or that he's seen come into the store. Like, was there something here now that was just extremely interesting or very rare, or like something with a story? Because a lot of these pieces do have stories behind them. I mean, that's what makes things exciting, and that's why we have a lot of these vintage pieces in our personal collections. So he did say there was one thing in this store that was extremely hard for him to find that he's had over the years. And he pointed me right to this piece in the back with a colorful front. This was the very first equalizer ever made. And it's extremely rare. He said it took him years to find the matching one because I guess they're mono EQs, but how cool is that? Now that we've saw almost everything on the inside of Play It Again Sam's, let's check out that window display on the outside.
I don't even know what that speaker is right there, so I want to look at the stuff in the window. So we have a KLH little FM radio. That's I think a little newer model. SR202 Pioneer Reverb. This is cool. A Dexcel DXR 1200. Oh, a Night, dude. So the one thing about this store is they don't ship. But if you come out to Ohio, and what is that? Recording it, that is sick. Those are tubes. So if you come out to Ohio to check them out, their prices are probably the best service prices that I have ever seen. Anywhere I've been. I mean, you got all kind of stuff. Like, I was like, dude, like an ES cassette deck for $159 is like a complete steal. What is that? Is a vintage Macintosh record compensator. That's a sick piece. They said there was some really cool stuff in the window, so I know that's the first thing you see when you pull up to the store. So I thought this would be a great thing to check out. There's another. That one's in a little worse shape. Dude, is that for sale? How much money is that? Oh my gosh, what is that? A vibration. Wow. There is some really cool stuff. I really enjoy going around the country, checking out stores like this. Like, seeing this on Google did nothing compared to like when you actually walk in and you get just hilly crap. Yes, look at the signs, man. You just get hit with a wave of vintage hi-fi. Unlike one, I don't know if I've walked in a store, and it's not true. I've walked in a lot of stores that have lots of vintage hi-fi. Oh, look at the Sansui. That is a sick vintage Sansui piece. Look at the old Sansui logo from Japan. Oh, that's amazing. All right, so I had to go in and ask them some questions about this stuff. But you see, when you pull up, like if you don't know vintage hi-fi, this may not hit you, but man, Play It Again Sam's is a sick store. Let me tell you what, that was one of the best stores that I have ever been to. I mean, I saw so many things that I've never seen before. Lots of rarities, lots of vintage hi-fi. I hope you guys enjoyed it, but for today, that's it.